Hello. Welcome to this is the first Crystal Club class in August. I am super excited, as always, to be here. I'm going to give it just a second to make sure I'm connected, and then I'll jump into my spiel. Oh, let's see here. Get everything arranged. Hey, friends, I am Audrey, a functional and integrative nurse nutritionist and energy medicine practitioner with Gemstone Well. I am a certified crystal practitioner as well as advanced crystal master. Super excited to hang out with y'all. As I always say, this is one of the very, very favorite things that I get to do in life, really, but professional and personal. It's a lot of fun. And so I appreciate you guys hanging out in our little Crystal Club corner of Facebook with me. I believe we have some new members. So if you're new, say hi, hello, pop in, whether you're watching on the replay or live, pop in and let me know that you're here. Say hello, even let me know where you're tuning in from if you're comfortable in sharing that. Today we are starting the 5th class in our Chakra series. We're going to cover the top 3 chakras, so the throat, the third eye, and the crown. The top chakras, I always say, are the fun ones, right? I hear lots of times that these top chakras are the ones that give you the superpowers, your clairs, if you will. But in my opinion, being nice and grounded is also a really good superpower too. So while we're waiting on everyone to join, I will do a little housekeeping like we do every time we have class. If you have questions, make sure you pop them into the comments. Now, Facebook just went through a big update. So if for some reason I am not seeing your comments, don't panic. I will come back and answer them in text, or I'll even come back and do a live Q&A if there is enough of them, okay? If I see them, I'll answer them right away. If not, I'll get to them at the end of class or after class if there's some kind of glitch with this new Facebook interface. I want this to be interactive and conversational. It's more fun that way, right? So if you'll talk to me in the chat box, I'll talk back to you. But please know that there is at least a 30-second delay, sometimes more than that, between what I'm saying and when you are seeing it. So if I don't answer you right away, that could be the problem. It might not be that Facebook's broken per se, or that their new features aren't working. It could just be that delay or lag. Also, sometimes Facebook gets tired of me talking and kicks us off. If that happens, hold on, I'll be right back. Even if I have to get on my phone and finish the broadcast from my phone, I will be right back. You may have to refresh the feed a couple of times to get me to pop back up at the top of your screen. If you can't find me, don't worry. Our amazing team at Gemstone Well will put Humpty Dumpty back together again when they send out the replay, okay? So let's dig in. Let me get a drink first. I'm actually hoping my kids are doing the dishes because I did some energy work on equine yesterday. And so my Gem Elixir bottle got super dirty. And so hopefully they're washing the dishes, right? Homeschool? Does dishwashing count as homeschool at your house? Okay, so let's do a quick review. What is a chakra, just in case you're jumping in with the 5th chakra class? A chakra is one of the bottle's subtle 3 energy systems, right? So we have the physical, the emotional, and the mental, sometimes called the planetary, astral, and spiritual planes, okay? A subtle energy system isn't physical, it's metaphysical. Emphasis on meta there. That means beyond or more than physical. And so a lot of times what that is referring to is there are things that you can't sense with your standard 5 senses. And it's kind of interesting. I wrote an article for Gemstone Well today, or turned it in today actually, about the clairs. I reviewed it before I turned it in. And so part of what we were talking about, or part of what I was talking about, was teaching how to access your 5 meta senses, or your beyond your 5th senses. So when I'm talking about subtle energy versus physical energy, I like to explain it as clouds versus clay. So subtle energy is the clouds. You can see it, you can kind of feel they're there. If you've ever been to a science museum and gotten to wave your hand through a cloud, or if you've been somewhere where there's really, really thick fog, that's another thing that comes to mind. My parents live on a lake, and so sometimes the fog is so dense you can just kind of swipe it with your hand, which is really cool. And then physical energy, of course, is the clay. It's solid, it's dense, you can pick it up and move it. Also recall that the chakra system is the way subtle energy is organized, right? And it's organized into gateways. It makes it easier to access, and it also points to certain nerve systems and endocrine glands in our human suits, in our physical body. It's the gateway between subtle energy and physical energy. And then I always say this because there is so much, rightfully so, going on about people pulling from and taking from other cultures. And so I always share that be comfortable in your journey with the chakras, because there is a chakra system for every single group. I'm Celtic, Irish background, McLaughlin, if you couldn't figure that out. That's a pretty Irish name. My mother's maiden name is Roseborough, so we're kind of Irish all through the family tree. There is a Celtic version of the chakras, right? There is an indigenous people of Native American people they have a chakra system, right? The one that is most widely used because of that fusion of yoga into American culture is the Hindu system, the Sanskrit version. And so that's what we're going to kind of refer to and talk about today. All right, let me get a drink and check in with the comments. I have 2 drinks today. Have you guys heard of herbal soda? I just did a video on herbal soda. It's not soda or Coke or pop at all. It's actually all herbs and plants, but it tastes like cherry Coke, which was my favorite when I was a kid. Or I think it tastes like cherry Coke. I actually haven't had a cherry Coke in over a decade, any kind of Coke in over a decade. So it tastes what I remember cherry Coke tasting like. So let's see who's joining us. Terry, hey girl. Maria, hello. Jessica, hi, welcome. Jessica from Oklahoma. Jessica, I'm in North Texas. It is hot here, so I'm assuming it's also hot there in Oklahoma. Like it's like it was 107 yesterday. It's unbelievable. Jessica is drinking the Blue Apatite and Citrine combo. That is a great combo. One of my favorites too. We're going to talk about Blue Apatite some today as well. I feel like my lights are super bright today. Awesome. Well, thank y'all for joining us. So again, we're talking about the throat chakra, the third eye, and the crown chakra. Next class, I should say, week after next, we're going to do energy sensing with a pendulum, or learn about pendulums. So that'll be a fun one. And I encourage you to bring something you can use as a pendie to that class so that you can do it with me. Terry says it's raining in South Mississippi. I am so jealous. Are y'all getting tropical storm stuff? I keep getting, and I haven't looked to see where it is, but I keep getting tropical storm notices on my phone. And sometimes they're from Texas, but sometimes not. Maria says it's raining in New York too. Oh, I'm coming y'all's way. I'm coming east. All right. Okay, let's talk throat chakra. And I want you to think about this quote when you think about the throat chakra. You can change your world by changing your words. Okay, you can change your world by changing your words. The throat chakra is the center of communication, and that quote really sums up the communication energy of the throat chakra. So in Sanskrit, Vishuddha is the word for throat chakra, and Vishuddha actually means purification. Physically, the throat chakra goes from the top of the shoulders, so kind of here, the clavicle region, all the way up to the nose. So it includes the mouth, it includes the ears, the neck, the jaws, the teeth, trachea, vocal cords, thyroid, and then the 4 parathyroid glands, your cervical vertebrae, so the bones that stack up in your neck from that. Most people have a little protrusion here, protrusion from the back of their neck all the way up to the base of the skull. Of course, also the esophagus, and like I said, the shoulders. So a lot of times people get repetitive injury, rotator cuff issues, rotator cuff tears. Oftentimes that is a throat chakra related injury. As far as the nervous system goes, the throat chakra controls the carotid plexus, so here on the side by your carotid arteries, as well as the laryngeal nerve plexus. There's a lot of plexuses today, so I apologize for my tongue twisting. So interestingly, in psychology and several of the chakra systems, the throat chakra is said to activate between the ages of 8 and 12. And maybe I'm a little sensitive to this because I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, but I would say without a shadow of a doubt, now that I have experienced it as a parent and recalling being that age as a child, it's the age where the kids tend to find their voice, tend to start speaking up for themselves. Might be considered back talk sometimes. And I have really good kids, don't get me wrong, but it's the age at which you kind of learn to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not about that. Not going to happen. Some kids develop it much, much younger than that. But I think between 8 and 12, it really becomes a cemented part of who they are, which is not a bad thing. They have an ability to set a boundary, even though they may not be able to set it in a respectful way all the time. So let's talk thyroid gland, because thyroid gland, major problem. And again, it could be kind of like I have a 9 and a 12-year-old kid. I see a lot of thyroid patients in my practice. The thyroid is a butterfly shaped organ, gland really, in the middle of your throat. It's kind of low on the throat. It starts small in the middle and then gets wider like a butterfly on either side. And it actually secretes a lot of hormones, and it's also the receptor for a lot of hormones, right? So thyroid issues, they can influence metabolism, growth and development. And if you're an adult, they affect growth and development of things like your fingernails and your hair. They also can affect body temperature. And so as you can imagine, part of the dysfunction of the throat chakra is the thyroid, right? So if you have a deep dysfunction, whether it's hyper or hypoactive throat chakra or thyroid, that affects that thyroid gland as well. And like I said, in my work with autoimmune patients, I find that thyroid issues often really mirror that fifth chakra or throat chakra issues and the person's ability to express themselves appropriately through that throat chakra. The action organ of the throat chakra is the mouth. So even though the sound, the words, the communication might come from the mouth, it's still a throat chakra issue. And what I always find cool is when like the science east meets west, right? Science meets metaphysical. And so you'll find, or I've found in my practice, and you'll find if you have a thyroid issue or know somebody with a thyroid issue, you can probably think of them and think, oh yeah, that definitely means something. Oftentimes I'll have somebody come to me who's been to a conventional medicine doctor and they have symptoms of thyroid issue, like conventional medical symptoms of thyroid issue. The doctor runs some labs and they're like, nah, you're fine. You're fine. You don't have any thyroid issues. And then they'll come to me and energetically we can determine that there is something wrong with the thyroid. And then we can take labs, dig a little bit deeper and discover that functionally either they're in that set point where we can prove that there is at least some kind of dysfunction on the labs based on the energy work. And it's, like I said, it's really cool when those two things come together, when that functional lab panel matches up with that energetic information that was previously undetected by conventional medicine, right? So the other gland that is associated with the throat chakra is the parathyroid. And I say parathyroid singular. There are actually 4 parathyroid glands, and they're not on, but they're near the top of the butterfly wings and the bottom of the butterfly wings, if you're thinking of the thyroid gland in this kind of butterfly shape. The parathyroid glands relate to each other in proximity, but not in function. The parathyroid gland actually controls the level of calcium in your blood and thusly in your bones, okay? So last week and the previous weeks, I mentioned minerals, right? Well, calcium is one of those minerals that helps to determine the production of the electrical currents. And as we talked about, electrical currents are how your body talks to itself, how different aspects and areas of your body talks to other aspects and areas. It's that electrical current that allows your nerve endings to talk to each other. So for me to send the thought from my brain to my mouth to then tell you, and then as the running joke, when anyone in my family watches any of my videos, and then it sends the message to my hands because I move them around a lot. So that happens by an electrical current that happens from mineral balance. Your parathyroid gland is a big part of that. And so oftentimes you'll find dysfunction, which we'll talk about some in a minute, but the dysfunction, even though you think, well, the dysfunction is just going to be in the throat, there's still some other nerve dysfunction and some communication dysfunction that happens based on that mineral balance. And like I said, mineral balance, having your minerals balanced basically gives you superpowers. It gives you that supercharge. And I recently taught a class outside of Gemstone Well on this, but it gives you the superpowers to think more clearly and for your body to communicate well with itself and communicate to you better what it needs. If you look at it from an emotional, energetic standpoint, when you're dealing with the throat chakra, you're dealing with issues of faith. You're dealing with personal expression, creativity, although it's not the seat of creativity. There is a lot of creativity involved with the throat chakra. And it's sort of the throat chakra is the energetic balance between what we choose to voice and what we choose not to voice. So you can think of that like boundaries, okay? So like if something is trespassing against you, whether or not you say like, that's not for me, or you just let it ride and keep your mouth shut. That's a big throat chakra thing with that communication center. The throat chakra also helps us to learn to trust our truth and to state our truth with honesty and kindness. So that's a good sign of a balanced throat chakra, that you can set your boundary or speak your truth and it come off and with kindness. You can speak your truth and be kind at the same time. So when you think of throat chakra dysfunction, think of strep throat, think of laryngitis, think of thyroid issues, teeth grinding, think of fears of speaking, inability to communicate, lack of consideration, or fragmented thoughts. And not just fragmented thoughts, but expressing thoughts in a fragmented way. And I'm going to show you some exercises at the end of when we talk about throat chakra to help fix those things. Another thing that people don't often realize is related to the throat chakra are eating disorders, specifically binge eating. That's often a throat chakra disorder. So let's get to the sparkly stuff. Again, when you're thinking of throat chakra crystals, we've talked about this in the other crystal classes. You can look at mineral, color, you can look intuitively, or you can just look in the darn book. Whatever works for you, there is no wrong answer. So let me take a sip, check for comments. I don't see comments, so hopefully it's still working okay. All right, sodalite. This is a super raw piece of sodalite. Let me see here. That is a super raw piece of sodalite, but sodalite helps you to see where your path lies. You can kind of see the underneath. Not a super pretty piece, but y'all know I like the raw, rough pieces. It helps you to detach from the worries of everyday life. And it can help to support blood pressure. So if you have blood pressure issues or someone in your family has blood pressure issues, sodalite is going to be one of your go-to stones. Think sodalite in your Gemstone Well Elixir to Go bottle if you're having blood pressure issues or any of the associated issues with blood pressure. Blue lace agate. And I got two different versions to show you. I've got the rough and tumbly one. And then I have a polished one. And it's a small one, but blue lace agate. There was a time last year, around the spring of last year, when I was teaching these classes and I completely lost my voice. Major throat chakra issue there. And I had my Gemstone Well Elixir to Go bottle crammed with so many different blue stones, just like trying to get through teaching a class. But there is blue. You can see the bands. I don't know if y'all can perceive that on your screen, but the bands for the blue lace agate. Blue lace agate helps you to release your clairs. So if you're clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, any of those things, claircognizance are blocked specifically by anxiety, this is the stone for you. If you are having difficulty with speech or a mental performance that you're having to give, or preparing for a speech or giving a speech, then blue lace agate is definitely one for you. If you didn't know, if I didn't mention, throat chakra stones are like all the blue stones. Like, go for blue. You can't go wrong with that. This one is kyanite, and it's a little bit of a polished kyanite. My raw kyanite is, it didn't hold up very well. It's very friable. Let me see if I can. So kyanite helps, it's really good with broken bones. It really helps to reconnect those nerve endings. It's high in calcium. It helps to reconnect those nerve endings, especially when there's been some kind of penetrating trauma. So I think of it like an open fracture, not to gross anybody out. So a fracture where the bone sticks through the skin, kyanite's going to be your friend, or something that you had to have surgery for. Kyanite helps those nerve endings to start talking to each other again. It also helps you to create new neural pathways. And so physically, that can be creating new neural pathways, as in you had surgery and those nerves were severed, no matter how small, when the skin was cut and the surgery happened. So you're using kyanite for that. But it also can be in the thought process or the way of shattering a pattern. And so when you think if you have a negative habit, or you might even call it addiction, which tends to be a strong word, but you have a negative habit or a negative pattern in your life that you're trying to shift. When you change that pattern, you create new neural pathways. So kyanite can help support that. And specifically in the example that I talked about, amethyst and kyanite or be a good pair for that. But we'll talk about amethyst more when we talk about the third eye. Another really good one for throat chakra is labradorite. Let me see if I can make that flash for you. Oh yeah, there's a flash. One way you can tell if labradorite's real is that it looks all, like sad green stone. And then you can make that little flash when it hits light. I keep labradorite in my purse, in my car. I often wear a labradorite ring. This is a partially polished piece, and I like it for teaching because it's polished on this side, so I can show you the flash, and then it's raw on this side. You can still see the flash a little bit, but it's raw on this side. Another example of just plain raw. Not as pretty, it's not a very high quality piece, but it is a raw piece of labradorite as well. So labradorite helps to uncover those unconscious belief patterns, so the ones that we don't know about. We might know that there's something there, but we don't know what it is. But it helps us to uncover those unconscious belief patterns that generate unpleasant emotional and physical states. So personally, I keep one in my purse because when I'm the passenger in a car, which I'm often the passenger because I drive slow, I'm often the passenger of the car, but I get super anxious, right? I don't like to be the passenger because I'm not in control, and there's probably an issue around that as well. But I don't like to be the passenger, and I gasp and do things when I'm the passenger that distract the driver further. So I keep labradorite in my purse. It's also a heavily protective stone, right? Labradorite's also super useful if you have a mystery illness. So thinking chronic illnesses, a set of symptoms that won't go away, autoimmune disease. It helps you to get to the root of that or find the nature of that. So labradorite can be a really good stone for that. Also helps to enhance your intuitive abilities. And so I find when I travel, it's easy to get distracted by new surroundings, and that labradorite kind of brings me back and keeps I call it a spidey sense, on point. So I encourage you to use it for those things. Another good one, a really common one, which I just dropped and went under the desk, is lapis lazuli. Now the caveat with lapis lazuli has pyrite in it and sodalite, and it's a combination of minerals that is mostly blue. The issue with buying lapis lazuli is that it's mined in Afghanistan, and the conditions that those miners, those workers are in are incredibly poor. And so it's really hard to get lapis lazuli that is ethical, is what I would say. So if you have some, don't throw it away, but I feel like that lapis lazuli brings some of that energy with it. So I try, and even though it's a common throat chakra stone, I don't recommend it often. But it also serves to help identify habits and patterns, helps you to identify emotional sabotages to your healing. So again, thinking in terms of someone who's trying to heal from something major and can't quite get there on their healing journey, lapis lazuli can sort of get you over that hump to help you figure out what's going on. So I like to identify that a lot with thyroid, right? Throat chakra, thyroid, lapis lazuli helps you figure out, okay, so I'm doing all the things. Maybe I'm even on conventional medicine. Maybe I'm doing all the right wellness things. I'm not getting better. So what is that emotional, energetic sabotage that's happening to sabotage my healing? Okay. Another one, are y'all ready? I don't know if I've ever shared that I have one of these. Aquamarine. Look how clear that is. Now, if you know much about aquamarine, you will know that it is man-made. Now, is it completely man-made? No. This one happens to be cut, so it's a lot man-made. But this is not it is a enhanced stone, let's say. So it's clear quartz with heated copper applied to it to give it this blue color. It is one of the few, if not the only, man-made or man-enhanced stones that I will work with, and I don't work with it often. Full transparency, I got it before I knew better. But it's one that many people resonate with, that many people have. And so I always say, don't take my word for it. Don't take a book's word for it. Check it out. It's not expensive. Get some. See if it resonates with you. If it doesn't, it's not bad to look at, right? You don't have to use it for anything. But it's good for getting the communication flowing. It's also a cooling stone. So think of laryngitis or strep throat or inflammation in the throat. Super beneficial for that. So that is aquamarine. And then apatite. So I told you, Jessica, you're drinking your apatite elixir. We were going to talk about apatite. Blue apatite specifically for the throat chakra. It really helps with headaches, okay? Golden apatite can also help. And golden apatite is more for the eating disorders. Blue, I like blue better for headaches and stuff. Both are really, really good for the throat chakra. The blue can help to stimulate eyesight. So that's a really good one, and it has a really uplifting energy. It's peppy, right? And I always think it's funny that apatite and appetite go hand in hand. But the golden apatite is more for the solar plexus and eating disorders and metabolism, not metabolites, metabolism. If metabolism were a crystal, it would be metabolite. No. Blue is also really good for dreaming. So a lot of times it's called the dream stone. So if you want to creatively problem solve while you're sleeping, then put some apatite in your pillowcase, or under your bed or on your bedside table. I have like a king size bed pillow, so I can shove crystals in my pillowcase without feeling them. So that's why I always recommend, that's why I always say, just stick it in your case. You know what? I just made an error. Let me clarify. This is Aqua Aura quartz. I said aquamarine. This is aquamarine and is absolutely a real stone. This is Aqua Aura, the one that I just showed you. This is the copper enhanced stone. So I got the description right, but I transposed the name because the aquas. So I want to make sure that I clarify that. And then you guys might have heard my personal story on blue chalcedony. It is gorgeous for one. It's very friable too. I don't know if y'all just saw that little point fall off. So you have to be very careful with it. This is a nightstand piece. It's really, really good for your lymph nodes. So anytime that I get something throat related or inflammatory related, my lymph nodes on my throat swell up, this is the go-to. Fixes it fast for me. And again, I preface all of these, tricks and healing information with do your own due diligence, do your own research, and ultimately you are responsible for your own health, of course. All right, so throat chakra exercises. These are super fun. Let me get a drink. Let's go for herbal soda. Oh, hey, Lori joined us. Hi, Lori. Welcome. Lori, it's raining at everybody else's house but mine. Are you in the sunshine and hotter than you know what club? Or are you in the happy rain club? And Tara, you said happy rain, so that's good. So it's not tropical storm rain. That's awesome. All right, so throat chakra exercises. Now, again, energy work. These are things that you can do without a crystal. What does a crystal do for us when we bring it into this? It enhances it. Think of that like your water. Water is good for you. It's healing. You add crystals to that. It just enhances your body's ability to use that water. It enhances the water's healing properties for your body. Same thing with these exercises. So I'm going to show you without crystals because I don't want you to not use the tools in your toolbox just because you didn't bring your crystal collection with you. And then I'll show you how to incorporate crystals into that as well. So the first one is if you feel like you're not communicating well. And generally I recommend this to clients who get themselves worked up, like super worked up into a tiz, and like you feel like you're communicating your idea in a really succinct and correct way. And the person's looking at you like, what? Like, What are you talking about? So clearly you're not communicating well, or there's some kind of energetic something that they're just not getting your message. A lot of times people come back and tell me that they use this technique in arguments with people that they love. So maybe a partner or a spouse or a child or a parent. And it helps to keep the energy of the communication at a reasonable level and helps both parties to understand each other. Okay. So this is one of my favorite ones for, I call it crisscross energies, but for when you're not communicating well. And it's really simple. All you do is rub your hands together to get those nadis working, right? Get the energy centers on your hand. Some people like to clap. I'm not a big clapper. I like to rub my hands and then I can kind of feel the vibration. You're just going to take your right hand on your left shoulder. I'm probably mirror image to y'all, but right hand, left shoulder, and pull it all the way down across your chest to your opposite hip. So you're going right hand from the left shoulder across the body to the right hip. And then you do the same thing from the other side. Now, this is something that you can do maintenance-wise, and I like to do it 3 or 4 times. Sometimes it feels necessary to do more, and I've got goosebumps. Can y'all see the goosebumps? I've got goosebumps. So that probably needed to happen. So hopefully I'm communicating well with y'all. So I do it 3 or 4 or 5 times, not a big deal. If you're somebody who wears a crossbody bag, so I wear a crossbody purse most of the time, or if you wear a purse on one shoulder, oftentimes that can throw off the energy in the throat chakra. And so this pulls it down, brings it down to those lower chakras, similar to the belt flow exercise that I taught you a few times back, and helps to reconnect, cross the energies. Your energies should be crossed like this. When they're parallel, we have a problem. Or when one side's super heavier than the other, we have a problem. So you're just rebalancing and crossing those energies. Now, in the same way, you just incorporate crystals. I always still rub my hands together. Then you're going to grab your throat chakra stones. And you're just going to do the same thing with the stone. You can do it without touching yourself. And you do the same thing, and it's giving me goosebumps again. So I encourage you to try it with or without the stones. The second one that works in the same way, I use it for the same thing, is the twisted hands for crossed energy. So what you're going to do is stick your arms out in front of you. Then you're going to turn your thumbs facing down. Okay? Cross one hand over the other and clasp your hands together and then pull them through. And then you just take a few deep breaths. That's all you do. This works really well if you only have access to one stone. So my stone is a palm stone in the car of labradorite. So that might look like this. Put them together and then bring it up to your heart. Hopefully you can see that. And then you just breathe. And sometimes I'll have an entire difficult conversation this way. Not with a client, but like with a partner or a spouse, right? With a child. Sometimes you'll see babies and kids fall asleep kind of like this. Same principle. They're recrossing those energies, reconnecting the right and left brain. Now you can also, if you cross your hands this way the first time, you can also cross them the other way and bring it through. I don't recommend that one if you don't have enough mobility in your hands and wrists to either get your palms together. So see, my palms are together and keep them together, or bridge that gap with a crystal. So like with this labradorite, that's pretty large. And you can bridge that gap with a crystal if you don't have the mobility in your hands to do so. Really, really beneficial. Another thing you can do is just tap your throat chakra. So this one's really useful when you are trying to set a boundary, when you are trying to communicate something and you're like, man, I really would like to tell so-and-so such and such, right? And then you think, dang, I can't say that because of all these reasons. So you just tap and you think, well, I'm willing to be open to doing that, right? And maybe you say it out loud if you're alone. I wouldn't recommend saying out loud if you're with other people because they're going to look at you funny. These things you can kind of get away with, right? So you just tap, I'm willing to communicate such and such to so-and-so. And then after a while, and maybe it's the next day, maybe it's the next hour, maybe it's immediately, you'll feel that clearing taking place, that energetic stagnation shaking off of that energy center. And then maybe you're like, I am willing to say, right? I'm open to. And then you're able to communicate it in a succinct and kind manner, right? Like what you said at the beginning, transmitting or communicating your truth with kindness. You're with honesty and kindness. Lori says it's 91. That feels like a fall day at this point because, like I said, we're at 107. Oh, so that covers the throat chakra. We're going to move into the third eye. I've got some more cool exercises to do with you there. And I think I showed you all of my pretty blue rocks, most of them. I didn't show you chrysocolla. That's a raw chrysocolla, very, very pretty. And I did not show, no, I showed you all the rest of them. Awesome. So third eye, and this one's really fun, right? Because third eye is associated with intuition. It's associated with that inner knowing, that inner seeing, and being able to intuit things that aren't said or spoken or sensed with your five senses. So Sanskrit for third eye is anha. And again, it's associated with the third eye and the mind. And one of the quotes that comes to mind with that is Helen Keller said, "It's a terrible thing to see and have no vision." It's a terrible thing to see and have no vision. I wouldn't say it's a terrible thing to see and have no vision, but Helen Keller was blind and deaf, so that's why she said that. But if you think of it in terms of the third eye, she could see with her third eye. She could intuit what was happening around her, but she could not visually see. And so I just think that's an interesting parallel. Lori asked what I'm drinking today. So at the beginning, I was sharing, I was out in the heat and the dirt treating some equines yesterday, doing energy work on horses yesterday. So my Elixir to Go bottle is in the sink. Hopefully my kids are washing it while we're chit-chatting. This is herbal soda, and it's from a company called Longevity Warehouse. It's really, really good. I actually just did a video on it, so oddly I have some sitting here. But it's Longevity Warehouse Reishi Cherry Cola. It's all herbal. It's got reishi mushrooms, turkey tail, all plant-based stuff. I think it tastes like cherry Coke, but I haven't had one in over 10 years, so it tastes like what I remember cherry Coke to drink. But it's also an easy way to get your herbs, because sometimes when we're putting herbal powders in smoothies and coffees and different things, it really alters the taste. So it's a really good way to get your adaptogens in. So the third eye, friends, it manages the brain, it manages the eye, it manages the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland stems from the brain, right? And the brain controls your neurological system. So even though we think of the third eye really being just up here, it has branches that touch your whole human suit. It's kind of cool the way the third eye, well, the third eye was first described in modern science or modern medicine in 1918. And they discovered it in frogs and dogfish sharks, right? Crazy, right? They discovered it, they named it the third eye because of the way it looked. The cells of it looked the same as retinal cone cells. So the cells were very, very similar to the cells that are in your actual seeing organs, right? And so the scientists that discovered it in 1918, now I say discovered, so mind you, this has been part of spiritual text for millennia, but the scientists that discovered it in 1918, that put pen to paper and made it official, he concluded that the third eye, because of its similarity in biological cellular structure to your eyeballs, had to be some kind of spiritual third eye. So he looked back and looked through spiritual text and scholars of their day prior to 1918, and he agreed that the third eye was part of a spiritual awakening or played a role in a spiritual awakening, which I always think is super cool when, even if it takes a while, when you have the mystics and the ancient civilizations that they're putting together all of this intuited information and then science confirms it. And I love when that happens. And I feel like that nowadays that happens at such a faster pace and it gets me all excited about it. So the third eye is the seat of vision and perception. Often it's related to a violet color. It's also a lot of times related to indigo. So when I first learned about the chakra system and all of that, it was always violet. But we know that the rainbow spectrum, Roy G. Biv, the eye is indigo, right? And so violet by the Roy G. Biv spectrum is actually the crown chakra. But I always learned violet for the third eye and pure white light or all the colors for rainbow or the crown chakra. The third eye is the seat of unlimited power and authority, and it also has to do some with your pituitary gland, and of course your vision, your eyes, right? So the pituitary gland doesn't get a lot of press, but it's in a small cavity near the sphenoid sinus, so behind your eyes. Another really cool, bringing the ancient mystics to modern science, is that it was described in early Hindu texts that the third eye was, they put it, receives nectar drips, which is interesting because it's at the back of the sphenoid sinuses of the nasal cavity. And so physically, the pituitary gland actually receives post-nasal drip. So I thought that was another one of those really cool, like bringing the ancient, specifically Hindu in this case, civilizations and thoughts and intuitive thought processes. And it's proven by science now that we know that that pituitary gland is dripped on by the nasal sinuses with post-nasal drip. I thought that was really cool. The pituitary gland is involved in sex hormones. It's involved in growth. It works on muscles and kidneys. It also helps to control other glands. So that's kind of what they mean by the third eye is the authority in the body. It's also the authority energetically. It talks a lot to the hypothalamus. It's directly attached to the hypothalamus. The pituitary gland and the hypothalamus are attached by a stem. And we know the hypothalamus controls our body temperature, our hunger, our parenting and attachment. That's all from the hypothalamus. Also helps to control your energy, your thirst, your circadian rhythm, so your sleep cycles. So kind of in a biological sense, the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus are almost an extension of each other. The third eye is also associated with the pineal gland, although the pineal gland is more crown chakra. So we'll talk about that a little bit more there. It's also plays a big role in self-image and manifesting. And so you've probably heard of the third eye playing a role in clairvoyance or clear vision. And so for people who have clairvoyance is one of the most popular clairs. It's the one that they hear about, the one that's usually in movies and TV and all of those things. And also, you know, do they still have 900 number? When I was a kid, 900 number psychics. But it's the gift of inner sight or inner knowing or vision. And so people who have this are said to have a particularly strong, but not necessarily overactive third eye. So third eye dysfunction, usually you see inability to see obvious problems is the third eye dysfunction problem. Being easily deceived, having a tendency towards chaos, codependency, abusive relationships, addiction, difficulty in setting goals, perception issues. On the other side, if you have an overactive third eye chakra, that doesn't mean that you're just wicked intuitive and wicked psychic. A lot of times it means that you fantasize, you have hallucinations. Anxiety can play a role on the excess side as well. You can have difficulty concentrating. You can be obsessed. A lot of times you'll see fanatical obsession being a third eye problem, and you'll have a general tendency towards self-centeredness. You might be someone who thrives on drama or turmoil. Now, the crystals for the third eye chakra are so fun because a lot of times they're people's very first crystals. Amethyst is one of, time and time again, people tell me that amethyst was their very first crystal. This is just a little amethyst point. You can see it's pretty clear on the bottom and purple on the top. And if you look closely, there's some iron inclusions in there. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Everybody loves amethyst, right? My first stone was actually clear quartz. It was actually this clear quartz, and I know I've told you that story before. But it's often the gateway stone for other people. It's really, really good for addiction. And I don't necessarily just mean like the big, heavy addictions like tobacco or alcohol or drugs or any of those things, but any kind of addiction. It could be an Amazon shopping addiction. It could be a food addiction. That's why I was saying particularly powerful are, kyanite and amethyst, or apatite and amethyst, right? Amethyst is kind of one of those jack of all trade stones. It also helps if you're new to meditation or if you feel disconnected from your guides. So whatever your divine guides are, so that could be God, your angels, the big spark, whatever your connection is to something greater than you, amethyst can help you with that. Also helpful for finding root causes. Another one of my favorite third eye stones. Actually, I'll show you another amethyst first. I think I've shown you this one. This is a Brandenburg amethyst. It actually has some anhydrous in it, so there's little water bubbles, prehistoric water bubbles inside, which I always find fascinating. If you want to check your crystals for anhydrous, specifically quartz, any variation of quartz, smoky quartz, and amethyst are usually where they're found. All you need is a jeweler's loupe. You can get them for about $5 on Amazon, a little 10x jeweler's loupe. And you can look at that and check your stones and see if you have any with anhydrous. If you look at your crystal collection as an investment, rather than just a tool, then that drives the value of your stones up when they have cool things like that. Another favorite for the third eye is lepidolite. This one I just got this year in Tucson. This is in a lepidolite heart or a lepidolite puff. Also very useful and almost see-through. I don't know if y'all can see through that. I can see through it. Is lepidolite mica. Lepidolite has lithium in it, and so it's really, really good for anxiety. Really good. There's something called Crazy Water, I think is the brand. Now, they take that crazy water and put it in a plastic bottle. Who knows how long it's in there, but it's from a well that is lined with lepidolite, so it's got lots of lithium in it. So it legitimately helps to ease mind disorders and different things. Lepidolite's also really, really good for supporting any kind of mental, emotional imbalance. It's good for hyperactivity. So my 9-year-old has one of these. It's good for ADD, ADHD, sleep disorders, especially if what keeps you up in the middle of the night is stress, if it's stress related. So if you're having a sleep issue and it's hormone related, lepidolite's probably not going to help. If it's stress or anxiety related, if you wake up in the middle of the night, your mind's just racing, all of the things you have to do, lepidolite will help with that. Another one of my favorites, which is top of mind right now because school is back, no matter what version of school you have going on, fluorite. Fluorite is really good. Hopefully y'all can see that. Yeah, fluorite is really, really good. It's the study buddy stone. It helps to ease your mind in stressful situations. It is, I attribute my entire graduate program to fluorite. Not legitimately, but I did use it a lot. This is a point. We keep these out when we do school at home. This is how it grows in nature. So this is just a green fluorite. It's got a little bit of purple tinge in it, not a lot. But that's how it grows in that nifty shape there. And then another good example of a good fluorite for the third eye, I thought I saw a crack in that, but is a fluorite window. And so that one you can see through. It's about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch thick. Very, very helpful. It makes a really nice palm stone to hold for stressful situations. Works really, really well for the third eye. Now, one of the fun parts about the third eye is opening it up. So if you don't feel very connected, if you don't feel like your third eye is working for you or you are working together, or you feel deficient in that third eye or overactive, then there are a couple things that you can do. One of them, super duper simple. All you do is meditate with your favorite third eye stone. Most of the time I recommend amethyst. Meditate with it on your third eye. Usually you have to lay in a reclined position to do so, and that's okay. You might even fall asleep, and that's okay too. Just make sure you set an emergency timer if you don't have the time to sleep, and lay that on your third eye. Close your eyes, do some breathing, and open that third eye up. Usually I recommend doing it once a day for 3 days, and then once a day after that every 3 days, and then once a week after that. You'll know when it's time to stop. A much faster way, not as fun maybe, probably not as beneficial overall to your human suit, is to open your third eye in the mirror. All you do is go in the mirror, kind of, what was the game when we were kids? Was it Bloody Mary? Maybe? You used to go say something in the mirror and like she would appear supposedly. And maybe that was just a child of the 80s thing. But when you look in a mirror and stare, and you know how you can stare, and if you stare long enough without blinking, something changes. So you're going to do that very same thing and stare at your third eye. until you see the change, right? And then we'll learn tomorrow. You can check in, not tomorrow, in the next class, you can check in with a pendulum and see if it's open, or you can keep doing that. And then you'll just kind of know, right? That helps you get in touch with your human suit. So you just know when that third eye is open. The last one we're going to talk about today, and I might have to talk about it pretty quickly because I've been talking a lot today. So hopefully y'all are still with me, is the crown chakra. And the crown chakra is so beautiful and so fun. It is the chakra of 1,000 petals. So you can think of it like the 1,000-petaled locust with the roots coming down through the bottom, through the bottom of the chakra all the way through your chakra system. The quote that goes along with that is, "Not all who wander are lost." And I believe J.R. Tolkien said that. The crown chakra is really the seat of spirituality. And it's often shown, like I mentioned before, as white in color or violet, sometimes gold, especially when it's shown in indigenous cultures that were of the Christian variety, or on that side of the world. So thinking Israel and those places, a lot of times that Christ energy is gold, right? It's also been shown as rainbow. The primary gland is the pineal gland, which kind of splits duties there between the third eye and the crown chakra. The crown chakra is not actually of your body. It's above your body, right? It's also associated with a certain kind of cell in the brain called glial cells. If you know anything about dementia or Alzheimer's or multiple sclerosis, those are all really founded in glial cells. They contribute to our thought process. They contribute to our nerves talking to each other. And also, a lot of scientists believe that the glial cells in our brain are actually the source of our imagination, which I thought was really, really cool. Much like some of the other things we've talked about today, calcium is a primary player here. Calcium for glial cells, so calcium in the other chakras that we talked about. Hey, Stacy! Calcium from the other chakras that we talked about were the calcium and the minerals help the nerves to fire and send electrical currents to talk to each other. With the glial cells, with the crown chakra, what calcium and the other minerals actually do, the calcium is the messenger for the glial cells, which is pretty cool, right? So instead of using the minerals to power the electrical systems, they're using the minerals to actually send the message. Like I said, it's also often associated with Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, dementia, brain injuries, right? There are some people that call themselves scientists, some people that call themselves spiritual leaders. There is research that doesn't disprove it. But a lot of people look at me like kind of side-eyed when I say this, but some people believe that these glial cells in the pineal gland can actually give humans superhuman healing of disease. So when we look at people that just cure themselves of cancer or cure themselves or something else, when they've dug deep and they've done research and the people that have allowed them to be tested, they find that this pineal gland might have something to do with it. It's still a really developing and new science, but sometimes they call it like a superhuman healing ability. They've also studied it in people who, it can go the other way too. So this pineal gland can cause you to age a lot faster or cause you to age a lot slower. Not reverse, not Benjamin Button style, but age more slowly or have an enhanced or faster rate of aging. The pineal gland is also super magnetic, and it is super sensitive to magnetic fields. So you may have heard me say before, like, don't sleep with your cell phone by your bed, right? That's a bad idea. That is an electromagnetic field. It messes with your brain, your pineal gland, which controls all the things like melatonin and your ability to fall asleep and have a restful sleep. And so that's why it's important to not have those kind of electronics in your bedroom. This was discovered, a lot of this was discovered on birds. So they figured out that little magnetic pineal gland is like a compass for birds. So it's the reason that the ducks here in Texas fly north in the summer and then come back and fly south in the winter, and they make it back to the same pond or the same lake or the same nesting area. It's that pineal gland. There's a little porch swallow that makes a nest on my porch every year, And I swear it's the same bird. Like, we lock eyes. I'm like, don't mess up my light. And it builds the nest. And then I don't have the heart to take the nest down. So we fight this battle every time. But that little magnet in that bird's head is what the pineal gland tells it. It's time to fly north. It's time to fly back south. It's also why in crystal healing sessions, we use lodestone at the base of the feet, at the Earth Star chakra. Because watch, lodestone is magnetic. Can you see? I tried to hang it. Can you see the paper clip hanging off of there? Let me hold it so you can tell I'm not holding the paper clip. There we go. See the paper clip? I'm not holding the paper clip on there. It's stuck because lodestone is magnetic. So use lodestone at the Earth Star chakra to bring the energy, that superhuman healing power of the pineal gland down through the bottom to communicate with the rest of the body. So all of that being said, another thing to consider. If you don't have a lodestone, that's okay. They're messy and dirty. If you're not a practicing crystal practitioner, you don't need one necessarily. Going outside on the earth does the same thing. Lodestone is magnetic core from the earth. It still has my paper clip. And so what you're doing by going out barefoot on the ground is the same thing. You're pulling that energy from the pineal gland down through the body, and you're bringing down all the inflammation with it. So that's another way to do it. Crown chakra dysfunction can lead to a lack of joy or trust, a loss of meaning, apathy. Materialism is often a crown chakra issue. Selfishness, fear of religion, fear of spirituality, and then the flip side of that, which is that grandiose, that obsession point of spirituality and religion, disassociation from the body. So when you feel like you're floating above your body, whether it's intentionally through meditation or unintentionally through some kind of imbalance. And that's why groundedness is so important when working with anything really above the heart chakra. Making sure you stay grounded is critical. As I mentioned, the colors associated, violet, indigo, quartz, violet, indigo, quartz, violet, indigo, clear light, which makes me think of quartz, white light, rainbow, all associated with that crown chakra. Most commonly, you will hear and see people use quartz. And so I wore my quartz today, my little quartz, what I call my quartz brass knuckles, and then my point. So quartz is really what you're going to use for that crown chakra. You can also use selenite. Now, I don't recall if we talked about this. If we did, it might have been at the beginning of our journey. But this is actually satin spar. It's commonly called selenite, but selenite's actually a clear mica. Like, this is a purple mica. Selenite's actually a clear mica like this. This is satin spar, but commonly people call it selenite. Either will work for the crown chakra. This is cheap, so use what you can get, right? The selenite helps to clear blockages in the entire energy field, but also in this crown chakra. And this is probably a foot-long piece, roughly. It's bigger than my computer screen. A foot-long piece of selenite. I would consider it a selenite wand, and it's really good for that auric field, but freeing that energy flow for those higher chakras. And then, like I said, clear quartz. That's my Arkansas clear quartz. Had it for 34 years now, since I was 5. But clear quartz brings all the clarity in the clear quartz. It allows for free flow of energy through all the higher chakras. And you can do that just by setting it above your head on your crown chakra if you were laying down. You can also hold clear quartz in your hand. I like to do in and out, so positive and negative flow for meditation. Or if your clear quartz is big enough or your selenite is big enough, you can just hold it in your hands. Hands up to increase energy, hands down to ground the energy. Now, one of my favorite exercises for the crown chakra, if you're not feeling connected to your crown chakra, to the divine, is something called the crown pull. All you do, rub those hands together, put them here, and then pull out, pull out, pull out. And you go all the way around the top, and that literally just opens up those energy centers. And so if you're really disconnected, you might have to do it a couple of times. And that opens that crown chakra. If you start here on the forehead, it also works with the third eye, often connecting the two. Whew, so that was a lot of information, friends. Like I said, next week we are going to do, not next week, next class. I really want it to be next week, but week after next class, we're going to talk about pendulums and how to use them, what they can be used for, because there are so many cool things you can use pendulums for. So get ready for that, including energy sensing, which will help tie all this chakra stuff together, because it will show you, like maybe you don't know if you're deficient, right? You don't have the symptoms or any of those things. So it'll show you how to figure that part out. Let me quick check sorry for keeping you guys late, but I wanted to get all of this info. Jessica's wearing turquoise today. Turquoise is a really good throat chakra stone. I usually wear a turquoise necklace when I talk to y'all. I'm also wearing black tourmaline, which I wear every day. And then this is a little carnelian and seashell bracelet that one of my clients in Hawaii made for me. So very cool. Maria's wearing carnelian and your hagstone, beautiful. Stacy says you need lepidolite. Get some. It's amazing. I love lepidolite. The micas break really, really easily, so I only use those in sessions. But the puffs and the polished stones are perfect. This one's probably too big for your pocket, but you can get them pocket size as well. So if that's all the questions, you guys, I'm going to put a Q&A post in here for you to put questions on, just general crystal questions. And then we've got some really exciting stuff coming your way for the Crystal Club. So I'm so glad you're all here. Hang with us. And then we'll be back next class with pendulums, which are so fun. Everyone be well. Have a great rest of your week.